Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another daily Marvel Snap video. So my voice is almost entirely back. I have a little bit of a cough, but otherwise it is much better. And so today we are going to be running a very accessible list. If you are a free-to-play player, if you haven't bought the season pass, an archetype that has always been decently strong, albeit it does have its hard counters, but is a Kazar build. A Kazar Zoo deck build always has a decent amount of synergy, a decent amount of strength, a decent power push, and today's is going to be no different. Now in this list, we are running Ultron. If you don't have Ultron, there are ways to build a Kazar Zoo that is strong even without it, but you have to know what to expect with your Kazar Zoo. You're not going to be able to just beat down every single deck. However, in this list, we do have a couple of key counter cards in our Cosmo and our Shang-Chi as a way to counter those decks that are bad matchups for us. If we're running into a Silver Surfer, we can beat those decks by dropping a key Cosmo to counter their Silver Surfer on the last turn. We can drop it against a Zabu deck to stop their Jubilee, their Ghost Rider, their Lady Sif, a discard deck to stop wherever they're playing their discards at. And then Shang-Chi, if they do get a large, high-powered minion onto the board, we can counter it and destroy it. And that is what is going to allow us to continue to compete with all of these other archetypes that have a lot more expensive cards. And then on a normal game, if it's not an archetype that we need to counter, if we just need a solid power push, we do have the pretty decent curve of our early disruption through our Korg and our Iceman. We have our Okoye to buff up the cards in our deck. We have our Bishop that will grow over time into a finisher of an Ultron play, which can offer some surprising amount of power and reach that the opponent a lot of times will be sleeping on. And so I feel like Ultron is a really good fit for this type of list, and it's incredibly fun. I've been running it at rank 122, and I've been having pretty decent results. You do have to retreat a little bit more often, but I would still say that my win rate has been around 55 to 60, even though we are going against some really strong opponents and some really strong decks. And so we're gonna go ahead and jump over into a couple of games. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, next up we have MD Device. First location is the X Mansion. We do have our Cosmo once we get a read on what kind of deck the opponent is running. And that is what is going to allow this to be able to be played at multiple levels, is that Cosmo counter potential. And so if they're running a Silver Surfer, if we can place Cosmo in a lane so that their Silver Surfer can't go off, then all of a sudden they lose a lot of their upside, a lot of their potency. Now, Bar Sinister is great to drop a Blue Marvel in because that's going to buff all of our cards very greatly. We do go ahead and lean in and just go ahead and play the Ant-Man in X Mansion. They do drop their armor, so he is protected. We can go with the Bishop on curve, and then we are looking for how are we going to win from here. So the next card they play is probably going to be a Typhoid Mary or something really powerful to follow up that zero play. Now, I would imagine that they play it, I would think, into Hala so that they don't cap out the expansion location. Now we get a Yellow Jacket, they get an Angela, so we lose 2 power on our cards. They'll get an extra 2 once they play a card there. Sometimes things aren't fair. Because we don't necessarily care about our board presence as much, I'm going to go ahead and play Iceman and Korg into Hala. I expect them to get destroyed here from something like a Typhoid Mary. Oh, and a Tuma does do the exact same thing. I expected them to get destroyed. We do have the Ultron to kind of push power back in that direction if we need to. We can push at most. We can do a Kazar in Bar Sinister, and then we can do Ultron in the X Mansion. Maybe we do Blue Marvel in Bar Sinister. And then we can do Ultron here. That's going to fill up this lane. It'll be pretty big. And we wanted to throw out the Korg and the Iceman for that little bit of disruption. So I almost want to snap into this because this is going to be +4 to everything that we drop. This is going to be a 20 power Hala lane. This is going to be a really big expansion lane as well. Now we're going to go ahead and snap into it. We're going to snap into it. We're going to lock in the Blue Marvel play. If they have something like a Shuri here, then we probably lose. No, we would win Bar Sinister, but Shuri would allow their Bar Sinister lane to be just massive. So unfortunately, they do use Arrow, which pulls our Blue Marvel over, and that is going to make us almost lose the X Mansion. We are going to be able to tie the X Mansion once we play the Ultron, we don't have any cards or any combination of cards so that we can play more than one to buff up our bishop just a little bit further. That yellow jacket is coming back to bite us. That Hornet Sting is just deadly. We're going to try the Ultron play. It's not going to win us Hala. I'm hoping that it will win us the Bar Sinister lane because each of these will be 9. Okay. So we do get the lucky play line. They were hoping that the arrow pool was going to guarantee, maybe it was something like a Hobgoblin or something where we weren't going to be able to compete for X-Mansion anymore, and then they had a really good shot. But since we were going to be able to at least tie or potentially win, they do end up retreating. Let's go ahead and take our 2 cubes and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Kilvin, and the first location is Cloning Vats, so we're actually probably going to lean into Okoye several times there, either that or Iceman several times, just to keep our options open. We are going to duplicate the Iceman, and then actually maybe next turn we do the Electra to pop the Quinjet, because as is, everything in the Cloning Vats will be reduced for them once it comes back to their hand. So I am going to do the second Iceman. I'm going to do the Electra instead of the Okoye. We're going to lean into this instead. I do like the idea of playing Okoye a couple of times onto the board to buff the cards that are in our deck, but I also like making sure that we get rid of the Quinjet possible play line as well. We're going to play the Okoye and the Iceman into Asgard. We have one more turn to compete for that location. Right now they don't have anything on the board. They could easily swing this tempo back in their favor with a Zavu, but at that point we're looking for like a Cosmo counter or a Shang-Chi to counter whatever they play, and just hoping that we have something along the lines that can compete with it. Now they do switch the far left lane with the Reality Stone, and it turns into the Monster Island. It gives both of us a monster resource. I'm going to go ahead and lean into the Cosmo. We do have the Shang-Chi that will be able to counter the Monster Island lane. I think this is going to be a little bit awkward of a game though. So we're going to play Cosmo into Asgard. We have initiative, so if they're going to try to draw any more of their stones, we're going to mitigate those chances, and hopefully we have the lead. Ooh, so the Lockjaw is actually decent. So if they want to rotate their Leech, if they want to rotate any of their big cards, they're not going to be able to in that location. So we could lean in with something like an Ultron in Monster Island, and that would push spots here and here. But I think for this game, I'm going to lean more towards a little bit of disruption with Korg. We're going to add in the destruction with the monster token in Monster Island. And we're feeling a little bit spicy, a little bit saucy. We're going to go ahead and snap at them. Next turn, we can do a Blue Marvel and a Sunspot. And that's going to buff up all of our cards that are on the board. And we're going to have the additional resource of the Sunspot on the board to play as well. And so let's see what they ended up playing in Monster Island. We have our Shang-Chi that will take out their 9 power resource. They did accept our snap. They didn't retreat. So let's see what they have in store. The Dracula is an interesting one. So that means that they're doing some kind of Thanos Zoo flood, maybe into an Infinite or a Red Skull. Right now they have 5 cards in their hand. So if they can't get rid of all of them, they're going to have a really difficult time guaranteeing what Dracula pulls into here. And even so, we're going to have the Blue Marvel come down. That's going to buff up all of our cards on the board, which is almost a full board. Now if they have a Killmonger, we lose. I mean, there's no competing against the Killmonger play here. We have initiative. Even a last turn Ultron wouldn't do the trick if we had a spot to play it. They do have the Ultron. Oh no, that is awful. And so now we are just at their mercy for whatever they flip into, which is the Mind Stone, and then they pull into Chavez, and it is not enough. Wow. I will take luck sometimes. Sometimes you just have to believe that the better outcome will happen. We take those. We take those. We absolutely take those. Let's take the 4 cubes and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Watts. The first location is Washington, D.C. So if we play Ultron, all of the bots are going to get an extra +3 power there, which is huge. That is a huge boost to his potential power level. And so I'm going to go ahead and, we did drop Sunspot there. I'm going to start pushing the rest of our resources into probably the Vault. Maybe I split them between Vault and the last location, depending on if we top deck our Ultron or not. And so I want to make sure that we get Ultron before we lean in and commit to not investing resources into the Vault or not investing resources into Washington, D.C. And so they have the Lady Sif that discards the Giganto. So it could be a Zabu flood deck. it could be a Hela discard resummon deck. Those are two very common ones that it could be just looking off of that first play line. Now, if they're just going with the natural Ghost Rider resummon, we do have a Shang-Chi to take out the Giganto that they discarded. I'm going to go ahead and play our Kazar into Necrosha, and they do top deck Zabu. And so we can expect some flooding here very, very soon. We have initiative going into this turn. We do not have our Ultron. So I am going to go with a Korg into a Cosmo. We have initiative, so if they use a Ghost Rider, if they use a Jubilee, if they use any kind of card that has an on reveal, we're going to block it in the vault, and then we have to worry about how to win the other location after that. But that is going to give us a good initial boost. Now, if they have a Spider-Man, again, we probably just lose. If they had the Spider-Man and the Absorbing Man, we would lose at that point, but they didn't snap into it. We do block the Ghost Rider combo with our Cosmo, and so we do have a very good position in the vault location after that. Oh my god, the Ultron is smiling upon us. He gave us a huge boost. So if I was Watts, I would be probably just going to invest my resources into Necrosha, maybe a little bit split, because I do have Zabu. I can play up to 3 2-cost cards. So I don't have Ghost Rider. I have something like a Jubilee, maybe a Dracula, maybe a Crossbones. And so Crossbones would be another 8 in this location. So that brings them to 15. This is going to be another 4 power each. So it's another 12. So that's going to be a 16 power Washington, D.C. lane. So we have a huge boost, a huge boom in that location, even though it is Spider-Man locked. And I'm not going to snap into it because I don't want them to retreat or get weary or worried, but we are going to throw down the Ultron. Now, if for some reason they had a Killmonger, that could do it. Or if they top deck the... Okay, no, so there is the Crossbones that I was calculating for. The Dracula in Necrosha does pull into their Chavez. They have the Sunspot. We actually win all 3 lanes against the Zabu deck. A couple of very critical play lines there, but we were able to make it work in our favor. By having the counter cards like our Cosmo and our Shang-Chi, that is what gives us the tools and the resources to be able to compete against some of these higher tier or higher paid decks. So let's go ahead and take those 2 cubes and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have BBQ High. The first location is the big house. We're going to go ahead and throw our Ant-Man there. Just he's a good resource right off the bat. And in the big house, if they don't have very many small resources, he's going to be really, really important for us over there. We do draw into a lot of our key resources. We have our Ultron, our Kazar, and our Cosmo. And so I'm going to go ahead and play our Sunspot into Nova Roma. I'm going to let him absorb some energy as we get a feel for what kind of deck Barbecue's running. And so they play the Scorpion, which does negatively impact our hand. Now, the last location being Crimson Cosmos. The only 2 cards, I guess the only 3 cards that we have that we can play there are Kazar, Blue Marvel, and Ultron. So if we want it to be filled up, if we want it to be capped out, then we probably need to invest into Nova Roma instead. And then we can play our Ultron in Nova Roma, and that will fill it up with bots of varying power potential. Now, I do think I split this up a little bit. We're going to go ahead and play our Kazar into the Crimson Cosmos. And then after that, we were probably going to invest the other 2 pieces that we drop on this following turn into Nova Roma. Now, if we draw into Blue Marvel, maybe we position it so that we played Blue Marvel and then our Ultron. But otherwise, we have the ability to fill up the Nova Roma location, and we can play our Ultron, which is going to push here and here, 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 and here. Now, they do know that we have the Ultron because of their White Queen, so that takes away our element of surprise, unfortunately. But if they have a Killmonger, if they have the, I guess, Cosmo counter in mid, that would take away a lot of our oomph, a lot of our gusto. There comes the Blue Marvel, a turn too late. I mean, if we just play the Ultron, they played Arrow. If they're going to try to copy it with a leader, we get more value out of it than they do because of our Kazar. We get more value out of it over in this left lane because of our Ant-Man. Our Bishop buffs up by 1, so a leader play here would actually result in a tie. I think we're... Okay, yeah. I was going to say, I think we're confident. It looks like they were running a pretty standard kind of value into an Arrow leader play, and they weren't able to out-tempo. And so we're going to take that 1 cube. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Onaga Dragon. The first location is Limbo. It's not great for us. Typically, we don't need very many turns after 6. We get most of our value on turn 6 with the Ultron play, unless we can very distinctly get a read on what they're playing. It also gives us additional time to draw into our Blue Marvel or Kazar. Some of those play lines, we can play some double disruption with the Korg, with Iceman into Kamar Taj. That is ooh, the double rocks is not great and okay for us at the same time, because we do have Blue Marvel, because we do have Kazar. Now, they could have Patriot. If they are not running a standard junk deck and they're running the Patriot version, then they'll get more upside out of the rocks than we will. I think I'm going to go ahead and use a Cosmo into Mojo World. I don't know. It depends on what kind of deck they're running, and I don't have a good read. I don't have a good read on it. Now, if they use an Absorbing Man to copy debris here, and then they can fill up both of our left and our right lane, that's kind of devastating. But we do have Blue Marvel. Ooh, so the Cosmo in Kamar Taj to follow up the debris. Oh. So is it a Patriot Surfer list? Because that's 2 3-cost cards, and so it could be the hybrid of the Surfer and Patriot. So if they don't draw Patriot, then I think we can finagle a win. But if they do, then I don't think we can. We're going to go ahead and play Blue Marvel, where he's safe and sound in Kamar Taj. That's going to buff up our rocks. They drop Sarah. They do have 2 more turns that they can play their cards. We're going to go ahead and play Bishop and leave it at that. A Kazar is probably our best bet here. Top decking a Kazar and allowing us to buff up our cards even further is the dream. And then we can fill up the rest of the lanes with the cards that we already have. Now, if they go Patriot and Silver Surfer here, I think we lose. But otherwise, I think we have a weirdly decent shot. They have the Cyclops, so it has to be the Patriot Surfer combo. I'm hoping that they didn't draw into their Patriot. I'm going to say it's because of the Korg. We sent them the 2 rocks with Korg, and that set the game up for us. That's what we're going to believe in, the heart of the cards. We're going to lock in this last turn and hope. We're going to hope a little bit. We have several outs here, so it's not like we are just playing bad odds, but they have a couple of outs as well, depending on what they have in hand. Now, because they haven't locked in their turn, I don't think they found their last turn cards, and so they do go ahead and retreat. We are going to go ahead and take that 1 cube. It wasn't comfortable enough. They had enough outs that I wasn't comfortable snapping because they could counter us several ways. But we do find the win nonetheless. With that one, we are going to go ahead and end the video here. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave it a like and a comment down below. And as always, this has been TLSG. Later, guys.